say, here's a lesson you don't get. I said, I loop the loop when I get loose. I said, ignition, ignite your night out.
Hello and welcome back to the Not Fade Away podcast. I am your host, Margot D, and this is episode 2. Thanks for dropping by. Follow our social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Not Fade Away Podcast. And for comments and suggestions, email me at notfadeawaypodcast@gmail.com. You can find our show in places where you download and stream podcasts, such as Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, and Overcast. If you like what you hear, subscribe and leave a review. I will read the 5-star reviews on the air. If you do not like what you hear, let's just part now as friends. Thank you. This is the show that pays homage to those special people in music who are no longer with us. I have a feeling that this will be one of my shorter episodes for the sad, simple reason that today's Not Fade Away ep is about none other than R&B goddess Aaliyah, who was killed in a plane crash at the age of 22. I will be talking about Aaliyah's brief life and her influence on hip-hop with the help of my friend Michelle Kramer, who worked for Aaliyah back in the day. Everyone, meet Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle Kramer. I worked in Aaliyah's career for about 5 years. I worked at her record label, Blackground Records. I worked at Blackground for 7 years, but I was involved in her career actively for 5 years.
Michelle and I had a long chat about Aaliyah in my apartment. We talked about her career, her connection to her fans, and some gossip about some famous boys that had a big crush on her. You will be hearing Michelle throughout the podcast today, plus some news clips and whatnot. So let's get started, shall we?
Two big stories tonight. Singer-actress Aaliyah is killed in a plane crash. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. A breaking story out of the Bahamas tonight. Authorities have confirmed that R&B singer and actress Aaliyah is among 8 people killed in a plane crash.
Yeah, the plane crashed as it tried to take off from the island of Abaco in the Bahamas. 9 people, all Americans, were on board that plane. One man survived the crash and was taken to a nearby hospital. The plane was leaving Marsh Harbor Airport around 3:50 local time when it went down.
Aaliyah and her crew had been shooting a video in the Bahamas. The plane was taking the group back to the United States when it crashed. CNN is reporting that baggage handlers said the plane was overloaded with suitcases and that the handlers and the plane's pilot complained about the heavy load. But they say passengers insisted on taking everything with them. Aaliyah was recently nominated for a Grammy Award for her song Try Again and made her acting debut in the movie Romeo Must Die. We'll have more on this breaking story as it develops.
Aaliyah Dana Houghton was born January 16, 1979 in Brooklyn, New York, to her parents Michael Miguel Houghton and Diane Houghton. Her name was a combination of the female Arabic of Ali and the Hebrew name Aaliyah, which means highest, most exalted one. Throughout her life, she spoke about her close relationships with her family members, especially with her older brother Rashad and her cousin Jomo Hankerson. Aaliyah's mother was a vocalist, and her uncle Barry Hankerson was an entertainment lawyer married at one time to singing legend Gladys Knight. Aaliyah's mother was her first vocal coach, and the family moved to Detroit in 1984. She coached her daughter well enough by the age of 5 to perform at her church and elementary school. Her talent stood out immediately, and soon Aaliyah was traveling with Gladys Knight and going on auditions for shows like Family Matters and making a very famous appearance on Star Search when she was 10 years old. Here's the clip.
And an even bigger dream. From Detroit, Michigan, welcome 10-year-old Aaliyah Houghton.
Funny Valentine, sweet comic Valentine, you make me smile with your heart. Your looks are laughable, unphotographable. You're my favorite work of art. Is your figure less than
Thank you, Aaliyah. Two worthy performances.
So sadly, Aaliyah lost that day, but she joins great company of folks making it big after losing on Star Search, including Rosie O'Donnell, Britney Spears, and yes, Justin Timberlake. She was performing with Gladys Knight on the weekends and summers off from school. Eventually, she enrolled at the prestigious Detroit High School for the Fine and Performing Arts. She kept a perfect 4.0 grade point average her entire school career in spite of a demanding travel schedule. Aaliyah always felt a responsibility to her fans to show that education was important. In 1991, her uncle, Barry Hankerson, signed a distribution deal with Jive Records, and he also made sure 12-year-old Aaliyah was signed to his Blackground Records. It was here that she met her first mentor, R. Kelly, who was the lead songwriter and producer of her debut record, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. Robert Sylvester Kelly was born in 1967 and was 27 years old, and Aaliyah was just 15 when she released her first album in May of 1994. Age Ain't Nothing But a Number debuted at number 24 on the Billboard charts and went on to sell 3 million copies in the U.S. alone. Some of the bigger hits include Back and Forth, At Your Best You Are Love, and the title track. It's at this time she contributed to the first of many songs to movie soundtracks in her career. The Thing I Like is for the Keenan Ivory Wayans film, A Low Down Dirty Shame. That's her first one. Now, I want you guys to listen to this clip. It's from a show called Video Soul Gold. It's from 1994. And 15-year-old Aaliyah and 27-year-old R. Kelly are being interviewed about the status of their relationship. This is really something. You're not going to believe it. Here we go.
My name is Brett Walker, and right now I want to welcome a young lady who came on the scene earlier this year with the debut single that had everybody moving back and forth. She's been working with the Chicago hitman R. Kelly, and they're here in the house to tell us all about it and give us a peek at her latest video. Please welcome Aaliyah and R. Kelly to Video Soul.
Hey, bring out the red carpet, bring out the red carpet.
How you doing?
What's up, girl? You stack. You know, America has been waiting for y'all to come back to us. How's everything going?
Everything's going pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, let's clear something up, because you know I've been getting a rundown on the street. Everybody seems to think that y'all are either girlfriend or boyfriend, or cousins, or friends. Let's just get the record straight.
I better go get me a white Jeep.
Well, no, we're not related at all. No, we're not. We're just very close. He's my best friend.
Yeah, cool.
Now, who found who?
In the whole wide world.
I found Leah. As a matter of fact, Barry Hankerson, my manager, who's her uncle, told me to go up to Detroit and hear her sing. Once I got up to Detroit, I didn't have to hear her sing because she was glowing. I knew she had it. As soon as she started singing, that verified it. And from there, we became here, and everything is all good.
Mm-hmm. Is Aaliyah your real name?
Aaliyah is my real name.
It's very unique. It's nice, though.
I think it's Muslim Arabic name.
Oh, all right. Do you know the meaning, or does it have a meaning?
It means the highest, most exalted one, the best.
All right. Here we go.
Now, here is the one salacious part of this episode, and I'm going to keep it brief because I have so much empathy for Aaliyah. I made some really stupid choices at 15. And if I were as talented and beautiful as she was at her age, plus I had an older, good-looking, talented guy paying attention to me, I don't know how I would have handled that situation. She's just a kid. So, anyway, let's just get to it. There's tons of gossip about there being a relationship between R. Kelly and Aaliyah. And the basic facts are this. They were married on August 31st, 1994 at the Sheraton Gateway Suites in Rosemount, Illinois. Aaliyah lied about her age on the marriage certificate, saying she was 18 when in fact she was just 15 years old. This illegal marriage was annulled February 1995. In May 1997, she filed suit in Cook County to have the records expunged because she was not old enough to get married in the first place under state law without her parents' permission. After this, Aaliyah cut off all contact with R. Kelly, and he does not publicly comment about their relationship. And this is the one and only time, by the way, that I want to talk about R. Kelly on this podcast ever. Thank you. After this bit of scandal, Barry Hankerson was worried it would hurt her chances for getting decent producers for her follow-up record. Obviously, she wasn't going to work with R. Kelly anymore. So he got to work right away to get ahead of the sordid news. In 1996, Aaliyah left Jive Records for Atlantic Records and worked with Timbaland and Missy Elliott for her next album, One in a Million. And the best singles include If Your Girl Only Knew, Hot Like Fire, and 4-Page Letter. It sold 3 million copies in the U.S. alone and 8 million worldwide. So Aaliyah basically survived that scandal, which would be pretty damn hard to do nowadays with today's media landscape, with social media, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. But hey, it's 1996. We don't have to worry about those things. She graduated from high school in 1997 and moved to New York City to better work on her recording career, as well as earning acting gigs in shows like New York Undercover. In December of that year, she performed What Child Is This at the annual holiday TV special, Christmas in Washington. In spite of the fact she was an internationally recognized superstar as a teenager, Aaliyah never really had a big head about herself or her station in the celebrity world. She is beloved for her sweet, low-key approach to life. Aaliyah's fans could not get enough of her style, her music, just her very essence. Young women from all over the world looked up to her, and she took that relationship with her fans very seriously. Perhaps because she was raised in a family of successful professionals in the music industry, Aaliyah was a pro and was just beloved by everyone. She was humble and hardworking, who treated everyone at her record company with respect. Once again, Michelle.
The first thing that comes to my mind is that in addition to just being incredibly talented, she was extremely humble. I think that's really why young people were attracted to her, and that was her... she really inspired young girls because she had this humility about her. She loved what she did, and she wanted to do it very well, but she stayed classy. I don't know how else to say it. So she had that sort of tomboy appearance, but she still remained kind of feminine. So kind of a model or role model to young girls. That you can be independent-minded and that you can be strong. You don't have to be overly feminine to be a woman. And she was so young when she started her career. I guess she just was a role model from the very beginning. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. There are things like when she did appearances and stuff like that, she did not want a limousine. She didn't want a stretch limousine. She pretty much traveled around in sedans because, it draws less attention to you. I always assumed that that's what it was. And it was just another part of her being humble, so she didn't have to have all these airs, I think her air was just her confidence. She just had a vibe about it. The best way to describe her, I would say, is fly because, again, she would sort of have this tomboy look, but it was feminine, beautiful. She was such a beautiful girl. I don't know. She just didn't have a lot of airs about her. She would, a very important thing for most musicians and especially at a record label is that the people working at the label, there are field reps all around the country that work your project for you. And she was very in tune to the people who were working on her projects. So she interacted with a lot of people. When she traveled and met the different record reps, she was always on a first name basis with people. She knew the people that she was working with. And so there was always the people that worked with her, you felt very closely identified with her and involved with her.
As I stated before, she contributed to several soundtracks throughout her career, including the movie Anastasia with the song Journey to the Past, which was nominated for an Academy Award. At 19, Aaliyah was the youngest performer to sing when she appeared on the 1998 Oscars. Now, that was the year that Titanic won just about every award in sight, including Best Song for Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On. But Aaliyah had fun, and she loved being around so many movie stars and directors. It made her eager to get her movie career going. In 1999, Aaliyah co-starred in the movie Romeo Must Die with Jet Li, playing a very improbable couple that earned $23 million its first weekend at the box office. Once again, Aaliyah contributed to the soundtrack with the hit song Try Again. On January 16, 2000, Aaliyah turned 21 with a surprise birthday party organized by, you guessed it, Michelle. Here are the details.
One of my fondest memories of Aaliyah was her 21st birthday. Her mother called me, and she had to be out of town or something was going on, so she asked me would I speak to the producers. There's a set of producers, Rapture Stewart and E-Seats. They were known as Key Beats. So I collaborated with them to kind of throw her a surprise party at Sony Studios, which I don't even think exists anymore, in Midtown. So Eric and Rapture told her that they had some tracks that they wanted her to come check out. So I bought her a beautiful cake at the Cupcake Cafe, and I kind of left it to the producers to invite people. And of course, her brother Rashad came, and he had a couple of friends. And just this very intimate party in this recording studio. Missy Elliott showed up. Jay-Z was there. Dave Hollister was there. And it was just incredible, just, everybody just hanging out. And you could see the love for Aaliyah turning 21. And it was, again, just not a big blowout bash, but, just a reflection of her low-key personality.
In early 2001, Aaliyah jetted off to Australia to film her second movie, Queen of the Damned. As an Anne Rice fan, she was super, super excited. But what it meant was that she would be filming this movie while simultaneously working on what would be her final record, the self-titled Aaliyah. And the record company was worried about two things. One, she would be too tired from filming all day to record fresh tracks on the nights and weekends. And two, that recording in a whole other part of the world might change her sound. She was making a lot of money with her own brand of feel-good music, and people worried she would burn out trying to work in a studio in Australia. Once again, Michelle.
So Aaliyah's album in 2001, the self-titled album Aaliyah, was actually recorded in Australia because she was filming the Queen of the Damned movie in Australia. So it was part of my role as A&R administration at Blackground was I would fly the producers over to Australia. So it was an incredible experience for her to be in Australia filming the movie, but also having the people that she identifies with, her producers who she trusts and collaborates with in her music and artistically. So I think there was that album, just having them all working in Australia while she's going through that creative input in the movie kind of reflected in the creativity of her album.
In July, her self-titled Aaliyah was released, and it arrived 5 years after her last full album of material. All of this time in between, she was contributing to soundtracks and working on her acting career. Many critics felt this effort lacked the intimacy and spark of her other albums. But Aaliyah didn't seem to mind the critics, as she signed up to appear in several motion pictures, including Honey, Some Kind of Blue, and the Whitney Houston-produced remake of the 1976 film Sparkle. Plus, she started filming a role in the Matrix franchise as the character Z. Everything looked bright for Aaliyah. She was young, beautiful, talented, hardworking, well-respected, and very much in love with Rockefeller Records CEO Damon Dash. After the R. Kelly incident, Aaliyah learned a hard lesson about having romances in the public eye. She was now a known personality, and her love life would be open to scrutiny. She developed into a sultry, sexy woman that women wanted to emulate and men were eager to meet. Gone were the baggy denim jeans and always wearing sunglasses in public. Now she was wearing form-fitting designer clothes that showed off her sleek figure and sporting a sexy a la Veronica Lake hairdo covering one eye seductively with her long, silky hair. You just have to listen to this clip of Beyonce interviewing Aaliyah on the red carpet for a live MTV event that year. Though they are the same age, Bey sounds completely starstruck as she basically grew up listening to Aaliyah. Check this out.
What's up, what's up? This is Beyonce on the red carpet with one of the hottest female artists out here, Miss Aaliyah. How you doing, girl?
It's so good to see you again.
You too. She's just looking fabulous. What are you wearing tonight?
I'm wearing Gucci. Gucci shoes, Gucci. Got a little Indian jewelry working.
Oh, that is hot.
Thank
All right.
you.
Now, you've been working it with these movies. Were you nervous?
Very nervous, but I'm real happy. It's something I've wanted for a long time, so
Yes.
to finally make that transition, it's great.
You're doing another movie this summer, right?
Hopefully things work out. Everything will be rolling.
That's
So, yeah.
great. What are you looking forward to seeing?
Tonight?
Tonight, yes.
I want to see D'Angelo perform.
Girl, I'm with you because you know he's fine.
He's fun. He's hot.
All right, back to you, Cisco.
Now, it's kind of an open secret, but many, many men were interested in Aaliyah, including the future Mr. Beyonce, Jay-Z. Once again, my friend Michelle.
So it was at that 21st birthday party that I realized, Jay-Z was hanging around, and somebody mentioned to me, oh, he has a crush on Aaliyah. So, and he was a very quiet guy. Him and Timbaland had a really good relationship at the time, but you could see that, he was kind of watching her out of the corner of his eye. And I think there were several other events where Aaliyah and Jay-Z would be there, and you could see, that he had a fondness for her. He really did. And then when we were at Atlantic Records, as I understood it, there's Trent Reznor from the 9 Inch Nails, and I understand he sort of had a crush on her, and he'd always wanted to work with her, which probably would have really been very cool and a diverse experience for her.
And what's crazy is that Aaliyah was actually a huge fan of 9 Inch Nails. She was crazy for them. And she was trying to get the word out to Trent that she really wanted to collaborate with him someday. How cool would that have been? Anyway, I'm sad to say, now we have arrived at Aaliyah's last day alive. On Saturday, August 25th, 2001, Aaliyah was heading home from a video shoot in the Bahamas. It was for the song Rock the Boat, and the record company was anxious it would be a hit. Her album debuted at number 2 on the charts behind a new hip-hop artist, 20-year-old Alicia Keys. The first single off the record, We Need a Resolution, did not take off on the charts, and radio was barely playing it. Aaliyah and her team knew she had an upper game if she was going to compete in this space again. Director Hype Williams later said the shoot consisted of very long days, but she was a trooper, and even though she feared the water, she filmed every second they asked for her to be in it and never complained. She left for the airport at 5 p.m. that day, according to the New York Post, and she was greeted by a fan and spent 15 minutes with him taking pictures and answering his many questions. The young man, Alvin Lightwin, praised her for giving $20,000 to charity. She told him, "God blessed me with money, and now it's time to give back." She also confided to him that she was completely exhausted and that running around the world to promote her new album was wearing her down. So according to Damon Dash, Aaliyah used her BlackBerry to call him from the airport just before 6 p.m. She did not like the look of the small Cessna aircraft and wished they had a company jet as originally planned. Dash asked her to not get on that plane, but she was determined to get back to the States. She simply missed her boyfriend too much. After 6 p.m., she boarded the twin-engine Cessna 402B, and besides Aaliyah, the other passengers were Luis Morales, the pilot, age 30, Anthony Dodd, the assistant hairstylist, age 34, Eric Foreman, her main hairstylist and very good friend, 29, Scott Gallen, her bodyguard, 41, Keith Wallace, he was a close friend of the family who was there in place of her parents. Aaliyah's mom had eye surgery that week and couldn't travel, so they asked him to go instead. He was 49. Gina Smith, a Blackground Records executive, age 30, Douglas Kratz, a Virgin Records executive, age 28, and Christopher Maldonado, her makeup artist, age 32. Once again, here's Michelle talking about the day of the crash.
So on the Aaliyah album, it was the second video shoot for Rock the Boat, and they shot the video in the Bahamas, in the Abacos Islands. So she was down there, I think they had wrapped early, and they had brought in, they told her they could bring in a small plane and she could fly out like a day early. I think they were supposed to spend the night and just fly out the next morning in a commercial airline. So the production company told her that they could bring in a plane to take her back to Miami. And I think she was anxious to get back. She was dating Damon Dash at the time, and I think she just wanted to get back to her boyfriend. So the travel agent that I deal with was a guy named Keith. We called him Keith, the OG travel agent. And Keith had booked the flight from Miami back to New York. So she was supposed to get on this prop plane to get to Miami from the Abacos Islands. And me that day, I had just gotten back from, I think I was in Midtown, and it was like 7 in the evening. It was 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening, and I got a call from Barry Hankerson's assistant, Carol Kim, and she said that she heard a rumor that she had heard something about that Aaliyah's plane had gone down, and could I try to find out what was happening. And the first thing I did was I called Keith, the travel agent. And Keith was like, no, everything's fine. She's going to fly into Miami. She should be landing now, or she should be checking into her flight now. And he looked on the records and he was like, oh my God, she didn't check in for the flight. So I hung up with Keith and he called the hotel where she was staying. I didn't really know where she was staying. Or that was a project that I didn't coordinate the travel for. I didn't really work on the music videos. So he called the hotel and the hotel said they were waiting for someone to contact them, that the plane had gone down, and there was actually still one man alive. There was a guy on the plane that was hired as a security guard, and he was actually still alive, and they needed permission to medevac him. But I didn't know anyone to contact, and I believe he expired anyway before they could even medevac him. So as I understand, it was a very small island. So as soon as the plane crash occurred, the people at the hotel knew right away what happened, and I think that also anyone at the airport, which was a very small airport, needed to know who to contact, because there were, I guess, 8 people on the plane, including the pilot. There was a guy from Virgin Records who was there as the video rep. Gina Smith was Aaliyah's project manager, and Gina Smith had worked with her very closely, I think, for the past 2 years. So I think that what happened at the airport was that the pilot flew in. The pilot arrived late, and then he was having engine trouble. It's also my understanding with small aircrafts, the weight has to be distributed a particular way. I guess it's my understanding, but I don't know for certain. I don't think that the pilot paid close attention to distributing the weight of the plane, and is my understanding that right after takeoff, the right engine failed, and he couldn't, obviously the pilot, I don't think he was a very experienced pilot, and he wasn't experienced enough. If he could have righted the plane, it just, wasn't possible at that time.
So according to the book Aaliyah, More Than a Woman by Christopher J. Farley, which is an excellent resource, by the way, Claude Sawyer, a charter pilot on the island, witnessed the crash and said the plane never got higher than 100 feet in the air before it literally nosedived right into a swampy area. Sawyer, who is also a fireman, immediately went into action and tried to get as many fire trucks there as possible. He said it was one of the worst crashes he had ever seen, with the aircraft broken into pieces and several seats ejected into the marshy area. There were several fires going on, and many of the bodies were also badly burned. A trio of male passengers surprisingly survived the impact of the crash, but all were declared dead later at the hospital. According to the island's coroner, Dr. Giovanna Raju, Aaliyah died from a blow to the head, severe burns, and a weak heart. She went into such a state of shock that even if she had survived the crash itself, she most likely would never have recovered from her injuries. So what caused the crash? Most likely a number of factors. But according to the National Transportation Safety Board, the NTSB, the gross weight of the plane, including the passenger's personal weight, plus luggage and gear, far exceeded what was safe. Estimates say up to 700 pounds over a safe weight to take off and sustain a flight. Also, the pilot was not approved as a pilot in command. The owner of the airways has never produced aircraft or engine logbooks to the public, and the complete maintenance of the plane is still not known. On August 13th, 2001, the pilot, Luis Morales, was caught with a small amount of cocaine in his car during a routine traffic stop. According to an autopsy report, there were traces of alcohol and cocaine in his system the day of the crash as well. Also, the day of the crash was his first day as a pilot for Black Hawk International Airways. Now, he may never really know what happened that day, but by 8 p.m. that evening, Michelle had to make calls to the families of those who perished. Here's Michelle talking about just that.
So once we realized that the accident had happened and that almost everybody had perished, there was the one guy still hanging on, I spoke to Carol Kim, and I told her, that was Barry Hankerson's assistant who had asked me to find out, and I told her what happened. And I think she reached out to Barry, who I'm sure then in turn contacted her family. But I was friends with Gina Smith's boyfriend at the time, and I called him. I think I was still trying to figure out what was happening too, and I called him and asked him, I think I was waiting for Keith to call me back. I was waiting for the travel agent to call me back, and I called Martin, and I said, have you heard from Gina? And he said, no, why? Everybody keeps calling me, asking me. And I said, there's a rumor that her plane may have gone down. So I told him that there was a rumor that her plane may have gone down and that I think it was true. And he, of course, immediately broke down. I think he already had a feeling something was wrong and that nobody was telling him. And, even if I didn't know 100% at the time, I felt like any loved one should know. Even if it's just a nasty rumor, the people who should know first are the loved ones.
Aaliyah's parents sued Black Hawk International Airways, which was settled out of court for an undisclosed sum. It turns out Black Hawk International Airways didn't even have permission to operate flights in the Bahamas on that day of the crash. Her funeral took place August 31st in New York City at the St. Ignatius Loyola Roman Catholic Church. Once again, Michelle.
So it's my recollection, it was probably a week and a half after the plane crash that they had Aaliyah's funeral. I think it's Loyola St. Ignatius. It's in Midtown. And my memory when I was going to the funeral was the street for blocks and blocks. The streets were lined with her fans. And, the saddest part of it were these young women lining up on the streets, saying farewell to probably their idol. And it just proved to me the impact that she had on her fans and the public, because there were hundreds of people that lined, I think it was Fifth Avenue. I just didn't expect that when I was going there. And when I was on my way to the funeral, it was a Catholic church. It was a Catholic ceremony. The family had a very large portrait of Aaliyah's grandmother on one side of the casket, and Aaliyah on the other side of the casket. As she was very close to her family, and family meant everything to Aaliyah. And I got a call on the way to the church that Damon Dash had some floral arrangement that he wanted by the casket. And the parents, or the family, I should say, the family didn't want any additional flowers. That after the funeral, we were going to go downstairs to the fellowship hall, and that's where the flowers were to go, where everybody gathered after the formal service. So that's what the family wanted. I wasn't going to go against the wishes of the family, so I have the florist, because the music industry, they all use the same florist in Midtown, and the Daily Blossom. And the Daily Blossom knew me and knew my number, and they called me, and they were like, Mr. Dash really wants this floral arrangement. Can you help us? He wants the floral arrangement by her casket. And I said, there's nothing I can do to override what the family wants. If the family said that the flowers have to go down in the fellowship hall, then that's where they have to go. And it really, when I got to the funeral, that was only befitting, because it was a very simple ceremony. There was I just remember one large individual. I'm not Catholic, so I don't know if that was part of the Catholic religion, but there was her casket was not, it wasn't side to side, it was vertical, or from the front to the back of the room. And at the head of the casket was a large white candle. And I think there were some very simple white flowers. The room, or the cathedral where the ceremony was held was very formal and very discreet, and again, to the humbleness of Aaliyah.
On September 6th, MTV held their annual Music Video Awards and gave a special tribute to Aaliyah. Those leading the non-musical tribute were Janet Jackson, Missy Elliott, Timbaland, and her brother Rashad, who read a poem. After her death, Aaliyah's self-titled album went to number 1 on the Billboard charts. Altogether, she has sold over 32 million records worldwide. Her father passed away in 2012 at the age of 68 due to kidney failure. He is buried right next to his daughter. Damon Dash has often said that Aaliyah was an angel, and he has a hard time reconciling not being there for her when she died. He contends that if he were there with her that day, he would have insisted that no one get on that plane. If Aaliyah were alive today, she'd be 38 years old. She is survived by her mother and her brother. So here's one final clip of Michelle talking about Aaliyah's legacy, and then I have one more clip of Aaliyah herself talking about what she hopes her legacy would be. She recorded this just a few months before she passed away.
I think the legacy that Aaliyah leaves behind is a young woman who was very focused on her goals. She knew what she wanted to do. She worked very hard at it. She worked very hard at everything she did. And I think that her legacy I guess is primarily left with the young ladies who really looked up to her at that time. There's also a tree in Central Park that's dedicated to Aaliyah that her family had planted there. She bought a condo, I want to say 2 or 3 years before her passing. She bought a condo on Central Park West. And so the tree is just north of Strawberry Fields, the Strawberry Fields plaque. And the year after her plane crash, I went to visit the tree, and I was surprised there was a large group of young ladies there with candles. So there was like a candlelight vigil that spontaneously occurred from her fans, and just another, just demonstrated the continuance of her legacy and the impact that she left on her fans.
I have to honestly say that everything is worth it. The hard work, the times when you're tired, the times when you're a bit sad, the good moments when you're on stage performing in front of thousands of people. In the end, it's all worth it because it really makes me happy. And I wouldn't trade it for anything else in the world. Right now, it's hard to say what I want my legacy to be, what I want people to say when I'm long gone. I want people to look at me as a full-on entertainer and a good person. So, we'll talk a few years down the line and we'll see where my head is at then, but that's what I want for right now.
Number 3, performance from our friend Aaliyah, Try Again on TRL.
Y'all know this?
So that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for stopping by. And next time, we will be talking about John Belushi. It's going to be a fun one. Everyone be good. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Not Fade Away podcast. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you love what you hear, yay, please leave a review. It helps us so much more than you could ever know. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Not Fade Away Podcast. You can email us with comments or suggestions to notfadeawaypodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to learn more about my other shows, Book versus Movie, The Fit Bottom Girls, and the Best Neighbors podcast, just follow me at Brooklyn Fit Chick on all social media or check out my main blog, brooklynfitchick.com.